these boys nothing and take from them everything. We have to be the best secondary on the field tonight.
Intercepted by James Pierre.
And it's caught for the two-point conversion. Pickett to Pickens. He hits and Highsmith sacks him. The ball is out.
We'll just simply do what's appropriate, prepare our guys, and put them in position to step into our next stadium.
Hi everybody, I'm Missi Matthews and welcome to the Matchup Show presented by Unibet. The Steelers are on the road once again, a short week as they prepare to head to Atlanta to face the Falcons. Let's welcome in our panelists so we can break down this matchup for you. Craig Wolfley of the Steelers Radio Network, Matt Williamson of SNR and Steelers.com, and Shelby Cassesse also from Steelers.com. So Wolf, we'll let you start here because we're going to talk a little run game in terms of both teams. Do you expect the Steelers to continue to pound the rock in this game?
There's no question about it. Success begets success. So you take that kernel of start a couple of weeks ago, you build on it and you build on it and you keep moving forward with it. I think it'd be huge for the Steelers to be able to go in there and do the same sort of time of possession deal. And you come off the ball, you move people around and you hit them right in the schnoz with some good running plays. It sets a tone early.
Matt, 4 straight games with over 100 yards for the Steelers. What's working that we weren't seeing earlier in the season?
Volume. I mean, they're sticking with it. They're not getting down on the scoreboard. They're continuing to do it. Wolf could probably speak better to this than me, but I really think that they've gotten much better with their point of attack double teams, when to go to the next guy. People think that stuff's easy. I'm sure Wolf can tell you it takes a lot of reps of when to go get the linebacker, those type of things. I also think the styles of runs that they're using, I think they have a better feel for now as well. Guys like Dan Moore are really doing well in the run game too. I just want to give him a little shout out. And the backs, we saw that this past week. Fresh legs for those two guys. That goes a long way late in the year.
You're shaking your head, Wolf. I know you want to jump in.
Absolutely. I'm all excited, Matt. It shows that you're a man of distinction and a cultured fan to know fat is where it's at and it's up front that counts. And it's exactly what's going on, the double teams. It takes so long because it's not just the knowledge that there's a run-through guy, but which one's going to get it. In my day, there was basically one post driver. That's the guy that's going to lift the man up. Then there's one guy that's going to be the drive blocker, come down, and he's going to go off to pick up a backside back or what have you, or any run-through guy. Well, now either guy can go, and you've got to make sure that you understand as you're engaged with a 300-pound big old cheese whopper of a defensive lineman that one of you got to get the run-through guy. Well, then, in that fraction of a heartbeat of decision that you got to make it, you got to know the other guy is locked in on that same double team guy. And that's where the indecision has occurred. Before, they've not gotten as much movement. Now they're getting movement and they're throwing bodies around. I like it. There's a physicality and a nastiness to their style of play. And I hope that they continue to keep growing on that because it really is beautiful. And one of the things, they've added some traps with some influence blocks, which is right out of circa 1980 with Chuck Noll. I love that stuff because when you get to T-bone somebody, it's a great family affair, let me tell you.
Shelby, we won't know if Najee Harris will be able to go or not until Friday when the status report is out. Do they need him in this matchup, or did you see enough from the guys behind him to prove that they can carry it over to another game?
Of course, you never want to hear that your top back potentially won't play, but as Mike Tomlin always says, one man's misfortune is another man's opportunity, and I think you've seen those other 3 backs live up to that when they've had their opportunities this year. Benny Snell and Anthony McFarland haven't had a lot of opportunity, but they've made the most of it in that game last week. You hope for the best that Jalen Warren's going to be back. It sounds like he will be. But the Steelers' run game has been at their best, Missy, when they've been able to do it by committee. When you had that 1-2 punch with Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, you saw last week how many of them got involved in that situation, even when Najee Harris went down. Really, for me, it's going to come down to how well this offensive line has played. They've played well so far. what they look like on Sunday is going to be a big determining factor in how well this run game does. I feel good about this run game, though, because of how much diversity they've had in their backs. You get fresh legs in there, and how much this offensive line is starting to come together, too.
Yeah, and it sounds like Jaylen Warren said in the locker room he feels like he'll be good to go. As we said, we'll find out officially on Friday. Matt, in terms of Kenny Pickett, because we cannot not talk about him enough, every week Coach Tillman said he's seeing improvements. What do you want to see from him this week specifically against the Falcons?
You definitely are seeing improvements. I mean, my best example of that was I was very critical of how Kenny navigated the pocket versus Saints. I thought he dropped his eyes a lot. He was too quick to run. Sometimes was running into pressure, wasn't doing his linemen a lot of favors in that regard. And therefore, if you're looking at the rush and your eyes drop, you're not seeing things develop downfield. Since then, he's been great. I mean, I think it's very obvious when something stands in a negative way, he quickly addresses it and attacks his weaknesses very, very well. The two things I'd like to see a little bit more from him is he seems to have a handful of misses a game that I don't quite understand, and they're bad misses. It's not an inch or two. I mean, he skies one, or I don't have an answer for that. And like almost every rookie quarterback in the history of this league, red zone stuff's still a challenge for him too. It's just a condensed field. That's how the league works. Trevor Lawrence is finally getting over that. You know, I mean, that's just a natural progression.
Wolf, who do we need to know on the Falcons defense to keep an eye on?
You're going to see Grady Jarrett. That's the guy up front. Grady Jarrett is kind of like a cross mix of an older Johnny Randall, if you will, and also an Aaron Donald. He's got the quickness of one, he's got the twitchiness of both of them, and he's got the power and low pad ability to go after. I mean, he's not a big guy. He's 300 pounds. He's like 6'1", 6'2", somewhere in that area. But he's got great center and great balance, and he's got strength. He's hard to get off his feet. So he's one of these penetrators that if you don't make sure that you are able to nail him down, he is going to be slippier and snot on a doorknob and getting into the penetration. He's going to screw up your running game. So you got to be after this guy and on him and get, 4 hands on it. Well, if you can get 4 hands and 2 helmets, it's even better.
Shelby, in terms of George Pickens and Deontay Johnson, what do you expect to see from this game after seeing some frustration brewing just in terms of not going well for them in the game in Indy?
Well, I expect this to be a really great opportunity for the Steelers in general. This is a Falcons team that has a lot of struggles on defense this year. You have one of the worst run defenses in the league. Their starting corners have had a pretty forgettable season at this point, and I really believe that Deontay Johnson and George Pickens have an opportunity to really get things going, especially as we've talked about the run game already. If they can establish that run game, if the offensive line can continue to have cohesion, then that's going to open up a lot of things in the passing game. I think despite the frustration, what we have seen in general is a rapport beginning to build with Kenny Pickett and his receivers, especially George Pickens. That can only get better, I think, at this point. You can keep continuing to improve in that area. We saw it a little bit last week, too. So this is a really great opportunity for the Steelers to look within to get the things done that they'd like to get done against this Atlanta Falcons defense. And I think it's a really great opportunity for Deontay Johnson and George Pickens to continue building with Kenny Pickett.
All right, let's take a look at our Week 13 opening lines across the league, presented by Unibet Sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you're in Pennsylvania and ready to place your wagers on any of this weekend's matchups, just download the Unibet PA app, or you can visit pa.unibet.com. We have still much more to come here on the matchup show. We need to talk about the Falcons and what they can do on the ground. We'll discuss that when we return.
Yeah, it's assignment football. Guys shedding blocks, getting off tackles. Now they have an extra blocker when the quarterback runs it. So it takes, front line, back end, all have to be responsible and have, good rules and assignments. Because if you don't, the quarterback can hit his head on the goalpost.
Welcome back to the Matchup Show presented by Unibet. There you heard Captain Cam Hayward discussing the challenge this week. So, well, we're flipping sides here, and we know what they are capable of doing on the ground in terms of the Falcons. How can the Steelers' defense stop it?
They got to do what they've been doing in the last several weeks. I mean, over the last 3 weeks, they've been averaging about 3.4 yards per carry given up, and it was a magnificent job in Indianapolis that they did on a Jonathan Taylor, who was as explosive a back as we've seen in some time. They got to play their gap responsibilities. They got to make sure that you come with a lot of friends when you chase down the running back like Cordero Patterson. You got to make sure that you got some buddies in the posse coming with you. Many hands, many tacklers, get to the ball, and make sure that you stay in your gap. One of the biggest things that you got to be able to do with these guys is be able to squeeze from the backside and hold the point on the front side while setting the edge. Always a difficult thing based on what you see going on with their alignment, the down distance and personnel. So it's one of these things that the Steelers have gotten so much better at in the last 3 weeks, and I hope they continue with the slugfest that they really engage in the trenches there over the last several weeks.
Matt, they're averaging 160 yards on the ground per game. Every game this season, they've had at least 90 yards rushing. In terms of them being successful, do you think, the secret for them?
Well, Arthur Smith, their head coach, was the offensive coordinator with the Titans, and he wants to reenact the Derrick Henry attack. And they don't have a Derrick Henry, but they have 4 ball carriers, including Mariota, the quarterback, that have all been productive this year. The rookie Tyler Algier, Cordero Patterson, who's also terrifying as a kick returner, as a side note, and they just stick with it. I mean, there might not be a team in the league that is more dedicated to the running game. I mean, not to disrespect the opponent, but their passing game really isn't feared, and they stick with that run to no end. And in today's NFL, that's a challenge. I mean, they come out with blocking tight ends. Sometimes you'll see a fullback, an extra offensive lineman. They use big personnel.
They do indeed, Matt. You're exactly correct. And one of the things that they do have is some good offensive linemen up front who are very physical. And they try to bury. I mean, they love to block to the whistle. And one of the things you notice is that their combination blocking, again, is very, very good. The inside zone, outside zone, all those things take some time. But when they get it down, it's a devastating blocking scheme that can really put you to ruin, because if they can get you running, with your shoulders to the sidelines, the big heavy hoofers up front, you got problems. Now you're one-dimensional. The cutback occurs. So you got to try and keep your shoulders square, lock out, and maintain your gap responsibilities and not become one-dimensional.
Shelby, they don't have tight end Kyle Pitts. He's out for the remainder of the year due to injury. But in terms of Marcus Mariota, Coach Tomlin warned about him and talked about him at length during his press conference. Matt mentioned how he's also part of their run game. What else do we need to know about their offense?
Well, I think we've talked a lot about their running attack. The Falcons are going to run and run and run, and when you don't think they're going to run or you don't think it's the right scenario, they're going to do it. And that's why Marcus Mariota scares me just a little bit. He hasn't had the most overwhelming season, that's true. But as they establish such a diverse and brutal run game, you wonder how frequently Marcus Mariota is going to get the opportunity to take that shot downfield, maybe even when you least expect it. The Steelers have had some issues every now and again, giving up chunk yardage, giving up the big splash play in the secondary. And so when you have an offense like the Falcons have, where it's so run heavy, it allows for you to establish the run game and allows for you to take that deep shot and to get those DBs to bite on the run game. And so that's why Marcus Mariota kind of scares me. He's had some success in the deeper game this year. He's obviously a part of that run attack too. So as much as we focus on this run game, be careful on that deep play too.
And Missy, along those lines, they also have a fine young rookie, big wide receiver in Drake London. And his numbers haven't been great lately, but he's very talented. He was the first receiver taken. If I was in charge of the Falcons and I get him one-on-one while the Steelers are crowding the line of scrimmage, I'm taking that shot time and time again.
Shelby makes a great point, because the more battering that goes up front in the front end, in the trenches and so forth, the more you constrict, the more you get nose trouble, and before you know it, somebody's going on a go route or it's a double move. And Mariota is very capable. He's still capable of putting one up there. And there's no doubt in my mind that, like Shelby said, as the game goes on, if they get continued success in that running game, look out, because they'll try to stick one behind you.
All right, guys, it's time for our Yinz Chat predictive question for today. We're going to have fun with a little over-unders. And the Yinz Chat one for today, over-under 50.5 yards receiving by George Pickens. You can play too. Just download the Steelers mobile app to play Yinz Chat. You'll have a chance to win some great prizes, and questions are updated daily. Wolf, what are you taking over or under here?
Oh, definitely over. George Pickens, I think there's going to be more than Slim Pickens come this weekend. It's going to be over.
Matt?
I'm going to go under. I mean, he's certainly capable. He could get that in one play. But one guy we didn't mention is A.J. Terrell. He's a fine young corner. He followed McLaurin around a lot last week. I think he might do the same with Pickens. And I just think there'll be some juicier matchups to Freiermuth and Deontay and some of the other options.
Okay, Shelby, what are you taking?
You know what? I'm going to go the over too. I have been waiting and waiting for the big George Pickens breakout game, and I think now is as good a time as ever to see it.
Okay, over under 120 rushing yards for the Falcons. Woof.
Ooh.
Tempting, huh?
Yeah. You know, I gotta get my brain going. Okay, never mind. We're going under. Yeah, I think you can go under. I think they nail it.
Okay, Matt?
I'm going to go over. That's a good number, though. I mean, I really think the Steeler run defense is excellent now. I just don't know if the Steelers are going to get a 20-point lead or a 30-point lead, and Atlanta just hands it off and hands it off and hands it off.
Okay, Shelby?
Yeah, I hope Craig is right, but I'm going to take the over as well, just because their offense is so predicated on the run game.
Okay, over under 285 total rushing yards in the game, so both teams. Well,
okay.
I flunked math twice. Are you kidding me? Put this to me. Oh my goodness. Well,
a big number.
Yeah, I know it's too big. I'm going to go under.
Okay.
I'm like one of those safety guys, you know.
Okay, I like it. Matt, you're taking under as well?
I think that's just a massive number.
Yeah. Okay, Shelby?
Yeah, I'm going with that too.
All right, here is our last one. Over under 1.5 takeaways for the Steelers defense. Woof. You're first.
You're leading off.
Carry the one. I'm going to go, I'm feeling mojo. All right, I'm going over.
Okay.
Going over.
All right. We'll take that, and I don't care who it is. James Pierre, Levi Wallace
We'll take
again.
them all.
Minka's due for some. So, all right. Matt, what about you?
I'm going over. I mean, I think they'll get pressure on Mariota when they throw. It'll get hits in the pocket and maybe a pick or two that way. But a little nugget, the Steelers have the fewest fumble recoveries in the entire league. That's just bad luck. Yeah, I mean, Atlanta puts the ball on the ground a lot. I bet they could get one or two in this one.
Oh, that's a great stat.
How about that?
Wolf is writing that one down.
Yeah.
Shelby, over under for you.
You know what? I'll take the over on this one. You're right. You kind of feel that the Steelers were buzzing a little bit on defense, especially at the start of the game against the Colts. I think they're due for a couple here.
All right, guys, thanks so much for joining me here today to break down Steelers at Falcons, and thanks to you at home. This has been the Matchup Show presented by Unibet. We'll see everybody back here next week.